Instance in the sense now is burning all the every season fragrance show their perfect body. I know inside all care, no peace. I body Namo fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. The answer path, the profound, subtle, wonderful Dharma. In 100,000 million years, it's difficult to encounter. Now that I have come to receive and hold it within my sight and hearing space, I found a fathom the thought that's come once true and actual meaning. Wondrous Dharma Lotus Flower Sutra, the universal door of the Bodhisattva who listens to the voices of the world, chapter 25. At that time, Bodhisattva infinite resolve rose from his seat, bare his right shoulder, joined his palms, and facing the Buddha said, O well-honored one, how did Quan Shi Bodhisattva get the name Quan Shi Yin? The Buddha answered Bodhisattva infinite resolve, good man, if all the countless hundreds of thousands of millions of living beings tormented by misery and pain, hear of Quan Shi Bodhisattva, and with all their hearts invoke his name, Quan Shi Bodhisattva will immediately respond to their prayers and set them free. If those who hold the name of Quan Shi Bodhisattva should fall into a great fire, the fire will not burn them because of Quan Shi Bodhisattva's awesome spiritual power. If they are being tossed about in deep and treacherous waters and call his name, they will quickly reach the shallows.
Hundreds of thousands of myriads of millions of men in search of gold, silver, lapis lazuli, tridactana, and carnelian, coral, amber, pearls, and other precious treasures may run afoul of violent squalls that blow their ships to the land of the Rakshasas. But if one man among them calls the name of Quan Shi Yin Bodhisattva, then the entire group will all be saved from the throes of the Rakshasas. For this reason, he is called the enlightened one who listens to the sounds of the voices of the world. If someone facing deadly harm recites Quan Shi Yin Bodhisattva's name, the weapons of the assailants will break apart and he will get away. Even if the entire threefold great thousand-world system were teeming with yakshas and rakshasas, bent on vexing men, when the evil demons hear the name of Quan Shi Yin Bodhisattva called out by these men, they will not be able to see them with their wicked eyes, much less do them in.
If there is a person, whether innocent or guilty, who is locked in stocks or shackled by ropes and chains, his fetters will snap and fall away, letting him go free as soon as he invokes Quan Shi Bodhisattva's name. Suppose pictures and leaves in legends that could fill a threefold great thousand world system in fast and perilous road, along with a merchant ship, guides and traders caravan laden with precious jewels. And one man among them proclaimed, good men, do not be afraid. With all your hearts invoke the name of Quan Shi and Bodhisattva, the enlightened one who gives courage to all beings. If we beseech this Bodhisattva, we will surely escape the thieves. Upon hearing this exhortation, if all the traders in unison cry out, Namo Quan Shi Yin Bodhisattva, by virtue of calling out Quan Shi Yin's name, they will immediately go free. Infinite resolve, how imposing is the awareness, spiritual power of the great Bodhisattva, who listens to the voices of the world. If any living being with weighty desires can constantly revere and keep in mind Quan Shi Yin Bodhisattva, his passions will subside. If someone with much anger can constantly revere and keep in mind Quan Shi Yin Bodhisattva, then his anger will subside. If someone dull and foolish can constantly revere and keep in mind Quan Shi Yin Bodhisattva, it will leave stupidity behind.
Infinite resolve, the Bodhisattva who listens to the sounds of the world, with his magnificent spiritual power confers such abundant benefits as these, and so living beings should always keep him in their hearts, and hold his name in mind. If women seeking sons bow to and make offerings to the Bodhisattva Quan Sri Yin, they will give birth to sons happy, virtuous, and wise. If instead they wish for daughters, they will bear gifted daughters with deep-rooted, wholesome characters, beloved and respected by all. Infinite resolve, such is the power of the Bodhisattva who listens to the voices of the world. Any living being who worships and makes offerings to Quan Sri Yin Bodhisattva will never take a loss. Therefore, every living being should hold Quan Sri Yin Bodhisattva's name in mind. Infinite resolve. Suppose someone held the names of bodhisattvas to the number of grains of sand in 62 million Ganges rivers, and for this person's entire life made offerings to them of all food and drink, clothes, bedding, and medicine. What is your opinion? Would the merit and virtue accrued by that good man or woman be abundant? Infinite resolve replied, extremely abundant, world-honored one. Very great indeed.
The Buddha said, yet if someone else held the name of Quan Sri Yin Bodhisattva, bowed and made an offering but one time, the blessings of these two people would be identical, the same in every way, and would endure for quadrillions or eons. Infinite resolve, holding the name of Quan Sri Yin Bodhisattva, brings blessings and benefits as limitless and boundless as these. Again, the Bodhisattva infinite resource asked the Buddha, well-honored one, how does Quan Sri Bodhisattva wander in the Saha world? How does he speak Dharma for living beings? And what manner of renouncefulness does he command?
The Buddha answered, Bodhisattva infinite resolve. If there is a living being in some country who can be liberated by a Buddha, Quan Sri Yin Bodhisattva appears as a Buddha and teaches him the Dharma. If someone can be liberated by a Prateka Buddha, he appears as a Prateka Buddha and teaches him the Dharma. If someone can be liberated by a sound hearer, he appears as a sound hearer and teaches him the Dharma. If someone can be liberated by a Brahma heaven king, he appears as a Brahma heaven king and teaches him the Dharma. If someone can be liberated by Chakra, he appears as Chakra and teaches him the Dharma. If someone can be liberated by the God of Comfort, he appears as the God of Comfort and teaches him the Dharma. If someone can be liberated by the God of Great Comfort, he appears as the God of Great Comfort and teaches him the Dharma. If someone can be liberated by a mighty general of the gods, he appears as a mighty general of the gods and teaches him the Dharma. If someone can be liberated by the god Vaishravana, he appears as Vaishravana and teaches him the Dharma.
If someone can be liberated by a minor king, it appears as a minor king and teaches him the Dharma. If someone can be liberated by an elder, he appears an elder and teaches him the Dharma. If someone can be liberated by a lay person, he appears as a lay person and teaches him the Dharma. If someone can be liberated by a minister of state, he appears as a minister of state and teaches him the Dharma. If someone can be liberated by a Brahmin, he appears as Brahmin and teaches him the Dharma. If someone can be liberated by a monk or nun, a lay man or a lay woman, he appears as a monk or nun, a lay man or a lay woman, and teaches him the Dharma. If someone can be liberated by the wife of an elder, layman, minister of state, or Brahmin, he appears as a wife and teaches him the Dharma. If someone can be liberated by a lad or maiden, he appears as a lad or maiden and teaches him the Dharma. If someone can be liberated by a god, dragon, yaksha, or gandharva, or an asura, garuda, kinara, or maharaga, human, non-human, and so forth, he appears accordingly and teaches him the Dharma. And if someone can be liberated by a Vajra wielding spirit, he appears as a Vajra wielding spirit and teaches him the Dharma.
Infinite resolve, such are the meritorious deeds done by Quan Sri Yin, the Bodhisattva who roams throughout the world and appears in various forms to rescue living beings. Therefore, you should all wholeheartedly make offerings to the Bodhisattva who listens to the voices of the world. In times of terror, crisis, and trouble, the great Bodhisattva Guanxuyin can bestow courage and dispel all fears. Therefore, all throughout the Saha world, we call him giver of courage. The Bodhisattva Infinite Resolve said to the Buddha, World-honored one, I will now make an offering to the Bodhisattva Guanxuyin. And so saying, he removed his rosary of pearls, worth hundreds of thousands of tiles of gold, and presented it to the Bodhisattva with these words, O humane one, please accept my offering of Dharma, this rosary of precious pearls. But Guanxuyin Bodhisattva would not accept the pearls. Infinite Resolve once more entreated Guanxuyin, O humane one, out of pity for us, please receive the rosary.
Then the Buddha said to Guanxuyin, out of compassion for infinite resolve, and the four assemblies for the gods, dragons, yakshas, Gandharva, Ashura, Garuda, Kinnaras, Maharaga, humans and non-human beings, and the rest except the rosary. Then Guanxuyin Bodhisattva, out of pity for the four assemblies, for the gods, dragons, human, non-humans, and the rest except the rosary, and divided it into two parts. One strain he offered to Shakyamuni Buddha, the other to the stupa of the Buddha many jewels. Infinite resolve, with such sovereign spiritual powers does the Bodhisattva Guanxuyin traverse the Saha world. Then the Bodhisattva infinite resolve put his questions into verses and asked them once again. Well, honored one, complete with wondrous commas. Several questions I will ask again. How did this disciple of the Buddha earn the name Guanxuyin?
Then the world-honored one, his every feature full, answered in melodious verse to infinite resolve. Come listen and I'll tell you Guanyin's story, how deftly he responds to every side, spanning ages past the kin of numbers, with oceanic bows both deep and wide, serving ancient Buddhas several billions, his pure and lofty vows and brief I'll tell. Whoever sees his face or learns about him, who can hold this Bodhisattva's name, will leave behind the sorrows of existence, and so this cultivation's not in vain.
Should you be pushed into a raging fire by enemies so harmful, mean, and cruel, above the strain of Guanyin Bodhisattva, the blaze will turn into a limpid pool. It casts a drift upon the mighty ocean, where dragons, ghosts, and sharks in turns around. Above the strain of Guanyin Bodhisattva, you float atop the waves and will not drown. Suppose an evil person pulls you at headlong from atop the peak called wondrous tall. Evoke the strain of Guanyin Bodhisattva, and like the sun in space, you will not fall. Perhaps you tumble down from far to a mountain, being wicked ruffian who pursue. Evoke the strain of Guanyin Bodhisattva, and not the slightest harm will come to you.
Surrounded by a mob of heartless bandits, their weapons drawn with murder on their minds, evoke the strength of Guanyin Bodhisattva. Their evil hearts will soften and turn kind. If you are on the verge of execution, sentenced by the state, condemned to die, evoke the strength of Guanyin Bodhisattva. The sword will break to pieces just in time. If bound and chained, restrained by ropes and shackles, with hands and feet confined in stocks and keeps, evoke the strength of Guanyin Bodhisattva. The fetters by themselves will fall aside.
Hexes, coins, and magic spells and voodoo cast by those who plot to do you in. Return to curse the sorcerer who sent them. When you invoke the power of Guanxuyin, if you meet with evil rakshasas, evil dragon, ghosts, and vicious beasts, evoke the strain of Guanyin Bodhisattva. None will dare to harm you in the least. Circled round and trapped by savage creatures with rays of fangs and claws that terrify, evoke the strain of Guanyin Bodhisattva, and they will quickly flee to every side. facing vipers, scorpions, and pythons, belching poison fumes and scorching flames, evoke the strain of Guan Yin Bodhisattva. They will shrink and turn away before his name.
When thunder clouds explode and lightning cackles, dumping sleet and hail and heavy rains, evoke the strength of Guan Yin Bodhisattva. The skies will clear, the storms will drift away. Living beings harassed and vexed and troubled by countless sorrows, burdened without cease. This Bodhisattva's wondrous wisdom power can help the suffering world obtain relief. Perfect and complete in psychic power, widely versed in wisdom's subtle skills, in lands throughout the 10 directions, the Bodhisattva manifests at will.
The aching mind, the evil pathways, the torments of the curse, the beasts, their health, the pains of birth, age, sick and dying, the Bodhisattva gradually dispels. O thou the true regard, O pure regard, regard far-reaching, wise and truly great, thy loving kindness, sympathy, and deep regard, I vow to ever laud and venerate. Your wisdom sun can break apart the darkness, immaculate your virgin light unfurled, to quell disastrous winds and storms and fires, a universal light for all the world, wellspring of compassion, precepts of thunder, your wondrous cloud of kindness covers all, extinguishing the fires of life's afflictions, as the rain of sweet dew falls.
In trials, suits, and civil confrontations, when fear runs high, when warring armies near, evoke the strength of Guan Yin Bodhisattva, vengeance and bad feelings disappear. Fine and wondrous sound, Guan Shi Yin, Brahma sound steady as the tides, a name transcending every worldly sound, Guan Yin, stay forever in my mind.
Let not a single doubt arise to haunt us, for Guan Yin Bodhisattva, holy sage, amid life's troubles and the pains of dying, whatever be our refuge and our aid. O Holy One, repeat with every virtue, your kindly gaze upholds all living beings, a boundless sea you are of every blessing, and let us vow to offer our esteem. Then Bodhisattva, guardian of the earth, arose from his seat, went before the Buddha and proclaimed, O well-honored one, living beings must have abundant merit and virtue to hear this chapter on Guan Shi and Bodhisattva's sovereign deeds and how he universally responds with his spiritual power. And while the Buddha spoke this universal door chapter, 84,000 living beings from among the assembly set their minds on achieving Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. End of the universal door of the Bodhisattva, who listens to the voices of the world, chapter 25 of Wondrous Dharma Lotus Flower Sutra. Nam mô Hờ Lai Đan Nai Đô Lai Ye Ye Nam mô A Di Đà Phật Lư Trê Đê Sư Đô Lai Ye Ye Che La Chi Chu Mô Lai Hù La Hông Hò Hơ Sư Đan Đan Hông Phò Mô Lô Sa Phò Nam mô Hờ Lai Đan Nai Đô Lai Ye Ye Che La Chi Chu Mô Lai Hù La Hông Hò Hơ Sư Đan Đan Hông Phò Mô Lô Sa Phò Nam mô Hờ Lai Đan Nai Đô Lai Ye Ye Che La Chi Chu Mô Lai Hù La Hông Hò Hơ Sư Đan Đan Hông Phò Lô Sa Phò. Nam mô Hờ Lai Đan Nai Đô Lai Ye Ye Nam mô A Di Đà Phật Lư Trê Đê Sa Pa Na Ye Bồ Đề Sa Tha Pa Ye Ma Ha Sa Tha Pa Ye Ma Ha Cha Lư Đi Cha Ye An Sa Pa Na Pa Ye Su Na Tan Se Nam Mô Sư Chư Lì Tho Ye Long A Di Đà Phật Lư Trê Đê Sa Pa Na Lim Tha Pa Nam Mô Na Na Chư Chư Se Bando Same Sapo Tata Shukanga Shi Sapo Sato Namo Po Sato Namo Po Che Po Patato Tachita Namo Lujati Jaladi Yishi Maha Buddhi Sata Sapo Sapo Malai Malai Mashi Mashi Vitayan Jalo 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 Dulu Pasayati Maha Pasayati Kala Kala Dili Shapala Yajala Jala Momo Pamalai Mutili Sina Jina La Sampala Seri Pasa Pasampala Saya Hula Hula Malai Hula Hula Shri Shala Shala Shri Shri Shula Shula Putiya Putiya Putaya Putaya Nikitiya Nata Janji Giri Shari Nampaya Mala Sapala Sitaya Sapala Mahasitaya Sapala Sitaya Sapala Sapala Janji Sapala Malai Nala Sapala Sila Samla Mujiya Sapala Sapala Sitaya Sapaha Jajina Sitaya Sapaha Patama Sitaya Sapaha Nana Jinji Sapaha Mapali Sitaya Sapaha Namo Hanadana Dalaya Namo Hariya Pala Jude Shapanaya Sapaha Ansintana Mandala Kataya Sapaha Namo Hanadana Dalaya Namo Hariya Pala Jude Shapanaya Buddhi Satapaya Mahasatapaya Mahajala Nijaya Shapanapaya Sudana Lesena Mosije Litaya Mangaliya Parajade Shabana Lingapana Manala Jiji Shule Mahapanta Sami Sabahata Shukana Shriya Shabasatana Mokosatana Mokoche Mapatata Tajitana Palushila Jati Chaladi Yesile Mahabudi Sata Sapa Sapa Malai Malai Masi Masi Litaya Jula 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 Pasi Pasayati Kala Kala Dili Shapana Jala Jala Mama Pamala Motili Yisi Yisi Sina Jina Ala Sapala Sari Pasa Pasa Pala Sayi Hulu Hulu Malai Hulu Hulu Shili Shili Shala Shili Shili Shula Shula Putiya Putiya Putaya Putaya Bikiliya Kala Jaji Kiri Shali Mabaya Mala Sapaha Sitaya Sapaha Maha Sitaya Sapaha Sitaya Yeshapana Yisapaha Nala Jaji Sapaha Malai Nala Sapaha Silu Sangama Jaya Sapaha Sapaha Sitaya Sapaha Jaji Sitaya Sapaha Patama Sitaya Sapaha Jaji Pantela Sapaha Mapari Sitela Sapaha Namo Hanadana Dalaya Namo Adiya Kala Jaji Shapana Sapaha Ajitana Mandala Pataya Sapaha Namo Hanadana Dalaya Namo Kala Jaya Shabanaya Buddhi Satapaya Mahasatapaya Mahajala Vijaya Shabanapaya Shuddhana Namo Sija Vitaya Mangaliya Kala Jaya Shabana Lingapana Vanana Jaya Shri Mahapanta Sami Saha Tata Shukanga Shriya Sapasata Namo Pasata Namo Pache Mahapata Tajitahana Palu Shila Jali Jaladi Yesiye Mahabudhi Sata Sapa Sapa Malai Malai Masi Masi Vitaya Jala 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 Pasayidi Mahapasayidi Kalai Kalai Dili Shakalaya Jala Jala Mama Pamalai Mudini Yesi Yesi Sina Sina La Sampala Sari Pasa Pasa Pala Saya Hulu 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 Shri Shala Shala Shri Shri Shulu Shulu Buddhiya Buddhiya Buddhaya Buddhaya Bikiliya Lala Jajiri Shri Nampaya Sapa Sitaya Sapa Maha Sitaya Sapa Sitaya Yesapalaya Sapa Nala Jinsi Sapa Mala Lala Sapa Silu Sangama Jaya Sapa Sapa Maha Sitaya Sapa Jajina Sitaya Sapa Patama Sitaya Sapa Nala Jinsi Panchaya Sapa Maha Sitaya Sapa Namo Hanadana Kalaya Namo Aliya Pala Jaya Sapa Naya Sapa Anjikanda Mandala Bataye Swaha. The great Knight Guan Yin, perfect and pervasive are his titles, vast and deep are his 12 great vows, saving living beings from the sea of suffering, listening to their sounds and saving them from suffering. There is no land where he does not manifest. Namo Guan Shin Bodhisattva Mahasattva. Namo Quan Shi Bodhisattva Mahasattva. Namo Quan Shi Bodhisattva Mahasattva. Next, we are going to chant the Guan Yin Bodhisattva 12 great vows, and we're going to make one vow for each one. Homage to the thus come one Guan Yin, whose name is perfect penetration and self-mastery, vowing to extensively make great resolves. Homage to the thus come one Guan Yin, whose single thought is unobstructed, vowing to constantly dwell in southern sea. Homage to the thus come one Guan Yin, who resides in Saha world and the hell, vowing to follow the sun and rescue those who are in suffering. Homage to the thus come one Guan Yin, who subdues the deviant demons and dispels dreadful monsters, vowing to dissolve all crises and difficulties. Homage to the thus come one Guan Yin, who holds the face of pure water and with a willow branch, vowing to sprinkle sweet dew in the minds of living beings. Homage to the thus come one Guan Yin, who has great compassion and can joyfully give, vowing to constantly practice equanimity. Homage to the thus come one Guan Yin, who roams day and night so that there is no damage and decay, vowing resolutely to do away with the three evil paths. Homage to the thus come one Guan Yin, who vigorously bows in homage to the southern cave, vowing to cast off all shackles and fetters. Homage to the thus come one Guan Yin, who builds Dharma ships and sails the sea of suffering, vowing to rescue all living beings. Homage to the thus come one Guan Yin, who is adorned with banners in the front and jeweled canopies in the back, vowing to lead beings to the western land. Homage to the thus come one Guan Yin, who has attained the state of the Buddha or limitless life, and vows to receive a prediction from Amitabha Buddha. Homage to the thus come one Guan Yin, whose well-formed body is incomparable, vowing to truly cultivate these 12 resolves. One in praise. Bodhisattva Quan Shi wonderful past gratitude, pure and clear our godless gaze through practice ages long. Sipatara, lotus flower, fragrant rest beneath her foot. They curve out and autumn moon is in the crescent of her brows. Everywhere, constantly, sweet dew sprinkles from her face. In her hand, the willow branch, through the countless autumns. Praise her deep heart, 1,000 hearts. In 1,000 hearts she answers. Sailing the sea of suffering, crossing people over. Namo graciously kind and compassionate Bodhisattva of the crystal land, who dwells on Potala mountain and observes the sounds of the world. Namo graciously kind and compassionate Bodhisattva of the crystal land, who dwells on Potala mountain and observes the sounds of the world. Namo graciously kind and compassionate Bodhisattva of the crystal land, who dwells on Potala mountain and observes the sounds of the world. Namo Quan Yin Bodhisattva. 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 Namo Quan Yin Bodhisattva.
Nam mô Quan Âm Bồ Đề Sa Na. 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 Mô Quan Di Bồ Đề Sa Phật Nam. 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 Mô Quá 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 Di
Nhi Bodhisattva Nam Mô Quá Di Bodhisattva Nam Mô Quá Di Bodhisattva Nam Quá Di Bodhisattva Nam Mô 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 Quá Di Bodhisattva 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 dedication of merit. May the merit from this project adorn all the goodest lands, repay the kindness from above, and rescue those in paths below. May all who see or hear this resolve upon awakening, and when this body misses and be born together in the land of bliss. 3 vows. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Nam mô Quan Duyên Bodhisattva. Nam mô Quan Duyên Bodhisattva.